It happened on a gray, soaked afternoon that started like any other. My 11-year-old daughter came home from school, slipped her key into the lock, and it didn't fit. She spent 5 hours sitting under the rain, waiting. When my mother finally opened the door, she told her, "We've all decided that you and your mom don't live here anymore." I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just said, "Understood." 3 days later, my mother received a letter that made her face turn white. That day at work had been brutal, the kind of shift where everything is chaos, short-staffed, overworked, and surrounded by people pretending not to be sick. Before lunch, I'd already been scolded twice, once by a family convinced that yelling fixed medical problems, and once by a surgeon who believed sarcasm counted as leadership. I'd had barely 3 hours of sleep and one energy drink that tasted like rust. Then my phone buzzed. Normally, I ignore personal calls during rounds, but something in me said, "Look." 6 missed calls from Hannah, my quiet, gentle 11-year-old who says sorry to furniture when she bumps into it. She never calls like that unless something's seriously wrong. I ducked into the supply room, shut the door, and called back. She answered instantly. "Mom?" Her voice was tiny and tight, trying not to shake. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked. "My key doesn't work." "What do you mean it doesn't work?" I said. "It won't go in." "I think they changed the locks." "They?" I asked, already fearing the answer. "Grandma. Maybe Aunt Brittany." I rubbed my forehead. They wouldn't do that without telling me. Silence. Then a small sniffle. "When are you coming home?" she asked. I looked at the clock. At least another hour before I could even think about leaving. "Honey, I can't right now," I said. "We're swamped." "Try calling Grandma again, okay? Or Aunt Brittany." "I did," she whispered. "No one's answering." "Keep trying," I said gently. "Someone will open soon." "Okay," she said, but her voice didn't sound convinced. When the call ended, I stood there staring at the shelves of gauze and gloves, telling myself it was nothing. A misunderstanding. A mistake. Then I shoved my phone back into my pocket and went back to work. 2 hours later, I checked again. 4 missed calls. One text. "Mom, I think they're here. Please come." My heart stopped. I stepped into the hallway and called. She picked up mid-sob. "Mom, they won't let me in." "Who won't?" I demanded. "Grandma and Aunt Brittany," she said between tears. "They told me we don't live here anymore. Grandma said to stop knocking, that I'm being dramatic." Something dark crawled through me. "Hannah, are you safe?" "I'm under the porch light," she said. "Is it still raining?" "Yeah." "Okay, stay there." "Don't move. I'm coming." I didn't ask for permission. I found my supervisor and said, "My daughter's locked outside. Family emergency." He started to argue, but one look at my face was enough. 5 minutes later, I was in my car, soaked scrubs, trembling hands, rain hitting the windshield like nails. My brain flipped a switch. I wasn't a nurse or a daughter anymore. I was just a mother on the hunt. By the time I reached the house, it was dark. Hannah sat curled on the porch, knees to her chest, hair plastered to her face, her backpack beside her like a loyal dog. I ran to her, wrapped her up. She was freezing. "I'm sorry," she whispered, as if she'd done something wrong. "You have nothing to be sorry for," I said, my voice breaking. "You did everything right." Then the porch light flicked on, and the door opened. My mother stood there, wine glass in hand, perfectly calm. "Elena," she said, pretending to be surprised. "What are you doing here?" "You changed the locks," I said flatly. "We needed privacy," she replied. "You locked my daughter out in the rain." "She's fine," she said. "She's 11. That look she gave me, the one that said, "You're overreacting," I'd known it all my life. "We've decided you and Hannah don't live here anymore," she said. "It's better this way. Less tension. Who's we?" "Brittany and I." "Of course." Behind her, my half-sister Brittany leaned in the doorway, phone in hand, feigning concern. "Mom, maybe this isn't the best time." Oh, stop, Mom snapped. It's been coming for a while. You're an adult, Elena. You'll manage. I looked past them. Brittany's kids were sprawled on the couch, watching TV, their snacks on my daughter's blanket, the one with daisies she'd sewn herself. Something inside me went still. I didn't argue, didn't cry, just said, understood. Then I turned, took Hannah's hand, and walked away. We drove in silence. Rain beat against the roof like static. After a while, Hannah asked softly, "Are we going to be okay?" "Of course we are," I said. She nodded, watching the headlights smear across wet pavement. "Grandma doesn't like me, does she?" That question cut deep. I forced a smile. "Grandma doesn't like anyone, sweetheart. Don't take it personally." She almost smiled back. Almost. The quiet in that car was heavier than the storm outside. She fell asleep against the window, while I kept driving, repeating my mother's words in my head. "You and your mom don't live here anymore, because apparently throwing out an 11-year-old counts as family management." And I wish I could say I was shocked. But when someone shows you who they are for decades, eventually you stop being surprised. You just start believing them. Because this didn't start that night. It started years ago. When I was a child, there were 4 of us in that house. Mom, Dad, Brittany, and me. My sister was 5 years older, louder, and somehow always right. When Brittany sneezed, Mom fetched tissues and sympathy. When I did, she told me to stop making noise. Dad, a hospital doctor, was gone most of the time, always between night shifts and early flights. When he was home, he smelled like coffee and antiseptic. He'd pat my shoulder, call me a good kid, then fall asleep in his chair with his boots still on. I adored him anyway. At least he noticed I was there. Mom didn't, unless she needed a target. I was dramatic if I cried, ungrateful if I didn't, too sensitive, her favorite insult. If Brittany broke something, it was kids being kids. When I spilled a glass of milk, I got grounded. Fair enough. By 16, college looked like freedom. Nisnipfimi. Any college, anywhere. Even community college sounded like paradise. Distance, I thought, would fix everything. It didn't. At 19, I met Hannah's father. Older, charming, and full of promises. I mistook attention for love. A year later, I was pregnant. 2 years later, he was gone. A job in another state, or maybe another woman. What I remember most is sitting in the kitchen with a positive test in one hand and a half-finished nursing school application in the other, wondering how I'd do both. But you don't think. You just survive. Work, study, raise a child, repeat. We lived in a tiny apartment stacked with textbooks, bills, and takeout boxes. Not happy, but free. And that was enough. 3 years ago, my father retired. He wanted to make up for lost time. He actually did. He came every week with takeout and stories. Hannah adored him, and he adored her right back. It was the only time our house felt peaceful. Mom hated it. Every visit reminded her that I existed. Then he got sick, fast and unforgiving. She called me late one night, pretending to sound fragile. "He needs help, Elena," she said. Translation: "You're a nurse. Fix it." So Hannah and I moved in. I told myself it was temporary. Those 2 years were the only time that house ever felt like home. Perfect. Here's part 2. The continuation and conclusion of the full English paraphrase, keeping tone, pacing, and structure consistent with part 1 and within the total character limit. Dad was kind, grateful, gentle. I ran the house like a hospital ward. Schedules, medication charts, meals, order. Mom floated around like Florence Nightingale, except her uniform was whine and self-pity. When Brittany and her husband Ryan visited with their kids, Mom transformed. She'd host big dinners, glowing with fake warmth, playing the perfect matriarch for the audience. But as soon as they left, the lights went out and she was cold again. 3 weeks ago, my father's body gave up. The funeral flowers hadn't even wilted when the house began to change. Some people fall apart when grieving. My mother redecorated. 3 days after we buried him, she was rearranging furniture, humming to herself, painting his room pale yellow, packing away his books. She said it would be the perfect room for Brittany's kids when they came to visit. Within a week, she'd replaced everything. New bunk beds, toys, family photos. None of my father. I stood in the doorway, still wearing my black dress, and watched her work like she was preparing for a holiday instead of dismantling a life. I wanted to ask how she could do it so soon, but she spoke first. "Brittany and Ryan might stay next weekend," she said cheerfully. "The kids need their own space." I just nodded, because arguing with her always felt like drowning. From then on, Brittany's family was there almost every weekend. They had their own laughter, their own keys, their own claim to the space. Somehow, Hannah and I, who actually lived there, became visitors. Mom called it healing. We were given the smallest room down the hall, 2 beds pressed against opposite walls. Mom called it cozy. I called it what it was, a warning. One night I overheard her whispering to Brittany in the kitchen. "Rent's outrageous these days," she said. "It makes sense for you to live here full-time. We'd all save money." Then quieter. "Elena probably won't stay much longer." She was only here for her father. I stood there, holding my mug of tea, realizing she was already writing us out of her life. When I confronted her the next day, she smiled that same smile I'd grown up hating. "You said you were here for your dad," she said. "He's gone now. You have your job. It's time to move on." Move on, like grief was something you rented by the week. A few days later, my dad's lawyer, Jonathan Wells, called. "Just some papers to finalize," he said. I assumed insurance documents. Instead, he handed me a folder. "Your father placed the house in a living trust," he explained. "He wanted to make sure it went to you and Hannah." "It's legally yours," I froze. "You mean, it's in your name," he said gently. "Your mother isn't listed anywhere." I left his office with the papers sitting unopened on the passenger seat, not ready to face what that meant. I thought I'd wait, let her grieve, let things settle. But 5 days later, she changed the locks. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Hannah sitting in the rain, backpack by her side. By sunrise, exhaustion hardened into resolve. I called the hospital and took a few days off. Then I called Jonathan. "She changed the locks," I said. "Do you have the trust papers?" "Yes." "Bring them." His office was 10 minutes away. He flipped through the documents, calm and precise. "You're the trustee," he said. "She has no legal claim." "Then fix it." "I'll draft the eviction notice. Give me 20 minutes." He typed, printed, sealed, and handed it over. The ink was still warm. An hour later, we were parked near the house. The rain hadn't stopped. Hannah was safe with a friend. I wasn't letting her see this. Jonathan walked up the driveway, umbrella in one hand, envelope in the other. I stayed in the car, watching. Mom opened the door almost instantly. All attitude and arrogance. Jonathan spoke calmly, handed her the envelope. She didn't take it seriously, not at first. Then she read the words. Her expression cracked. Brittany appeared behind her, pretending to be horrified. She grabbed the papers, read a few lines, and started shouting. Jonathan didn't flinch. He said something polite, probably the legal equivalent of, "You've been evicted," and walked back to the car. Mom yelled something after him, but the rain swallowed it. "It's served," he said quietly, sliding into the seat beside me. The drive back was silent. I expected satisfaction, but all I felt was air, like I could finally breathe again. Not victory, just oxygen. Jonathan said she'd try to fight it. "Let her," I replied. "I'll be disappointed if she doesn't." Back at my friend's apartment, Hannah looked up from her coloring book. "Did you talk to him?" she asked. "Yeah." "Are we going home?" "Soon," she nodded. "Grandma's going to be mad." "She's been mad since the 80s, I said. "She'll survive." Hannah laughed. The first real laugh in weeks. That was when I decided that was the sound I'd protect at any cost. The next few days blurred together. Paperwork, court dates, rain. Jonathan called. She's hired a lawyer. They're claiming you fabricated everything. Of course they are, I said. It's what she does. He filed for emergency possession. I'd already filed a police report describing how my mother had locked my daughter outside in the rain. The officer who took it looked disgusted. That's neglect, he said. You did the right thing. 2 days later, a judge signed the order. The court dismissed my mother's attorney's motion instantly. The sheriff's office will enforce possession, Jonathan it told me, probably within the week. The morning of the eviction came faster than I expected. I woke before sunrise, nerves buzzing. The sky looked metallic again, gray, heavy, waiting. I made coffee strong enough to melt a spoon and read Jonathan's message. 10 a.m. enforcement. Standard procedure. I told Hannah I had errands. I didn't want her to see it. No child should watch their family be escorted out by deputies. When I arrived, 3 cars filled the driveway. Mom's, Brittany's, Ryan's. Of course they'd all show up for the drama. 2 deputies stood at the door already. From the sidewalk, I could hear voices. Mom's high and angry, Brittany's tearful, Ryan's blustering. The door opened. Mom appeared, hair perfect, expression pure outrage. She pointed at me like I was the devil himself. She's the one! She forged everything. The deputy didn't even look at me. Ma'am, we have a court order, he said, firm but calm. Brittany raised her phone like she was filming. You can't throw out a widow, she cried. Ryan folded his arms and muttered something about rights. The deputies explained that they had 15 minutes to collect essentials and leave. Mom laughed. The brittle kind that sounds like breaking glass. You can't be serious. But they were. They stomped around the house, arguing, crying, slamming doors. Mom repeated, "This is my home," like saying it would make it true. I stood halfway up the walkway, hands in my pockets, rain on my face, saying nothing. Brittany came out first, clutching clothes and 2 framed pictures. One of her kids, one of Dad, stolen from his office. I almost said something, but stopped. Not my circus anymore. Ryan followed, glaring at me like I'd ruined his life. Mom came last. She paused at the threshold, eyes bright with fury. I hope you're proud, she said. I wasn't. I was just tired. She walked past without another word. The deputies closed the door behind her. One handed me the keys. It's yours now, he said. 3 words that weighed more than I expected. When their cars finally pulled away, I stood there in the drizzle, staring at the quiet house, the place that had been both cage and battlefield. I went inside. The air smelled like wine and dust. A half-full glass sat on the counter, a jacket over a chair. It looked like people had simply vanished mid-scene. I opened every window, letting the rain-soaked air drift through. For a moment, I thought I heard Dad's voice. You did what you had to. That evening, I picked up Hannah. She climbed into the car and smiled at the boxes in the back. Are we moving again? She asked. Home, I said. When we walked through the door, the house echoed. She ran from room to room, touching everything. This is ours again, she said. Yeah, I whispered. It always was. 6 months later, peace finally feels normal. We haven't heard from them. No calls, no texts, no surprises. I blocked every number. I still hear bits of gossip. Small-town whispers travel fast. Mom moved in with Brittany and Ryan after the eviction. That lasted a month before everything exploded. Mom started redecorating their home. New furniture, new rules. Ryan left after she locked him out one night. Now Mom and Brittany live together again. 2 women competing for air. Their fights even made it onto Facebook comments. Someone screenshotted it and sent it to me. Mom was selling Brittany's dining set. Brittany commented, You don't even live here. Perfect symmetry. As for us, we're good. Hannah's helping me in the garden. She says plants grow better when you stop yelling at them. The house is quiet now. No new locks, no storms, and best of all, no one trying to move in. So what do you think? Did I go too far? Or just far enough?